Hollywood is the Olympics of entertainment, and you are surrounded by the best of the best. And so constantly you're reminded of your failures, or you're questioning your self-worth because you're always hearing success stories of others.
Hey everyone, I'm Rasha Goel, and welcome to Beyond the Glam, a show where we take you behind the scenes, behind the cameras, and talk to your favorite celebrities, role models, and creatives about what it's like working in an industry that they're so passionate about, but how do they stay true to themselves? How do they stay grounded? And how this industry truly impacts who they are. And today I am talking to someone that I absolutely adore, Samba Schutte. Samba is a Dutch-Mauritanian actor, comedian, and writer born in the Sahara Desert. He grew up in Ethiopia until the age of 18. Now, you might recognize him from HBO Max's hit pirate comedy, Our Flag Means Death, where he starred alongside Taika Waititi and Rhys Darby. He also made waves as Hakeem on NBC's Sunnyside, playing the first Ethiopian character on an American sitcom alongside Cal Penn, which was so fun to see. And that show was executive produced by comedy legend Michael Schur. Now, Samba's talents don't just stop at acting. He's also known for his work in video games like Star Wars Jedi, Fallen Order, and Call of Duty, Black Ops Cold War, and as a writer for Battlefield 5. Very, very talented. He also speaks 4 languages, English, French, Dutch, and Amharic, which I recently learned is the language spoken in Ethiopia. He also won Holland's biggest national comedy competition and performed comedy specials across Europe, Asia, Africa. Samba's career spans stage, screen, and gaming, and you can currently see him as the lead in the rom-com Advanced Chemistry, which is now available on all digital platforms. I am so excited to dive into your journey, Samba, on Beyond the Glam. Welcome, and thanks for your patience as I read about all these amazing things you've done.
No, it's such an amazing intro. Thank you for listing that all. It's just, I'm blushing from my introduction, so I appreciate it.
Are you? I can see the color.
Yeah.
Well, it's fun. You know, I think I was talking to someone else about this too, that we forget, right? We forget some of the things that we've done in the hustle and bustle of this industry. So when somebody does read a bio, you're like,
hey, I
did that.
I have had some journeys. Yeah, no, you forget it because you're so focused on the present and what's next and what's next and what's next that you forget, hey, you've had a whole life before this. You're not defined by this moment.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I do want to talk to you about that because there's so much in this industry also, I think, that conditions us to that. But I'm going to go first and talk about this incredible international journey that you've had. You've had successful TV shows and comedy tours across Holland, Asia, and Africa. In 2011, though, you moved over to Los Angeles. I'm sure that was a huge transition. So what was that like for you? And do you think it was easier to break into Hollywood because you had already been established internationally, or was it like you were starting from scratch again?
Oh my gosh, what a question. It's so loaded with so many different things. Basically, you know, I had an amazing career in Holland as a comedian and actor. I was very lucky to tour around with such a successful career and show comedy specials. And I was at the peak of my career there, but I always knew I wanted to move to LA because I wanted to work in English. I wanted to be at the mecca of entertainment, and I knew I always wanted to be in this market. So when I finally did move to LA, I moved here on an O1 visa, which is a visa for aliens of extraordinary ability, right? You have to have, I know, that's the real name, by the way. Immigration came up with that.
Really?
On a
As
Tuesday.
an alien?
Yeah. Alien of extraordinary ability. Sounds like an X-Man. But I got that visa, which is for artists who have excelled in their field in their home country. And so, you know, to get that visa, you have to submit all this evidence and you have to go through all these things. You have to have done so much great work in your home country. So you already run a marathon before you move to LA. And when you finally get that visa, I got that visa. I moved here in January 2011. And a couple things happened. One, I realized all my credits did not matter at all. No one knows the Dutch market. No one cares what you did in another country. They are always concerned with what are you doing here and now. So I had to start from scratch as a comedian at the Comedy Store. I'd have to line up during the open mics for 2 hours on a Monday afternoon and then get on stage and get 3 minutes, to kind of showcase that, hey, I am funny. I have all this experience, and then hope that someone sees you and goes, hey, I want you to perform here every now and then for 10 minutes or whatever. So it was a huge step back, and just in terms of, I have 3 comedy specials. It doesn't matter. What you did doesn't count. So I had to start from scratch as a stand-up comedian. I had to start from scratch as an actor because none of my credits counted toward, what credits matter here in Hollywood. And thirdly, that visa that I was telling you about that we worked so hard to get, a lot of studios did not take actors on that visa because it was a temporary visa. It's for 3 years. So I could not do network TV auditions. Even though I'd book them, they go, you're wonderful. Okay, we want to give you the job, but do you have a green card? I'm like, no, I don't have a green card, but I have this amazing O1 visa. And they go, oh, I'm so sorry. We don't take actors on that visa. I'm like, why? It's valid for 3 years. They're like, yeah, but in case we pick you up for another episode down the line and you're not here, we can't take that risk. So as frustrating as that was, I could not do any network auditions, had to start from scratch as a stand-up comedian, had to basically build myself up again from the bottom. But luckily, the experience I had in Holland was already a very strong foundation. So when I would do stand-up shows, would be better than the open micers, obviously. When I would do some acting, I would stand out from some others who were just starting out. So I had the backbone, but I still had to prove myself from zero, which was so frustrating. And the fact that I couldn't do any network auditions for 3 years till my O1 visa expired and I could apply for a green card was just an enormous setback.
And I can't even imagine how that would feel internally to you, right? I know you say frustration, but like mentally, how did that impact you? Because like I said, internationally, like you were saying, you were already recognized and then have to deal with that all over again. How did you move through that to say, okay, I'm going to persevere? And I do want to just really mention that as someone who's born and brought up in this country, we forget, and I do take that for granted, that I don't have to worry about a work permit or work visa, which I do know a lot of colleagues nowadays that have come internationally. But yeah, tell me about what the mental stress or strain was like for you and how you moved past that.
It was so hard. I mean, you come here, like I said, having run a marathon, ready to get going. You have all this experience behind you. Everything's ready to go. You're ready to participate in the Olympics. You've trained, and then only to find out that you don't qualify. So you have to wait another 4 years to qualify for the next Olympics. It's a really hard mental blow. So it was very stressful. It was very frustrating. It was very much like, hey, maybe should I be here? Am I supposed to be here? But what kept me going is trusting my worth, trusting that I had something to offer. I knew I moved to LA for a reason. I knew I wanted to work in this market, and I knew it was just a matter of time to then eventually get that green card so the world would open up to the world of auditions for network TV, that eventually my stand-up comedy would stand out among the others, and it did. So it was just about having the patience. It was such a test in patience and faith. And what kept me going was just trusting that I had something to offer. I knew I had something to offer, but I had to wait 5 years before I could finally start offering it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and the stress got to me also just physically. I mean, I got diagnosed with vitiligo in 2015, which is like this autoimmune disease where you start to lose your pigmentation. So I was turning white, which is great for Hollywood, just, I could get more parts from
Maybe that worked in their favor?
I was like, maybe I can play accountant number 2 now instead of terrorist. So I was turning white. So that's when I realized, no, I am carrying way too much stress in my mind and in my body. I need to breathe through this and have faith. And just, I think it's so important to have some kind of foundation of knowing your self-worth and why you're doing something, why you're here. Otherwise, LA can just chew you up, spit you out, and people leave after a year. People leave after 3 years. Those who stay longer than 3 years are the ones who just have that, that faith and that perseverance. That's what I call it.
I love how you use those words. And I think, I know they're so just thrown out there, faith, perseverance, patience. But I think at the same time, you really, really have to have that. Because otherwise, yeah, like you said, LA will just spit you up. But I think it's so important too about recognizing your worth and who you are. And I think that you have such a beautiful, diverse background. You know,
Thank you.
you're Dutch, am I saying that right? Mauritanian?
Mauritanian, yeah.
Okay. And you grew up in Ethiopia. So how do you think that that shaped who you are outside the industry? Because I think that's really important.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to have grown up so diverse and multicultural and multinational, third culture kid, they call it. I think it was really important to experience the world in that way before coming into entertainment, because I saw poverty of such great levels growing up as a kid. You know, Mauritania is not a rich country. Ethiopia, definitely not a rich country. I mean, it's better now, but growing up in the 80s, you know, it was all, we are the world, you know.
Yeah.
So growing up with that, I think, and my parents especially being social workers, you know, they were working in Mauritania, they were working in Ethiopia to bring food aid, to bring medical aid, to bring support, just growing up with a mentality of being of service and being super grateful and humble for what you have, the life you have. I think that was so important, just as an integral part of who I am as a person, being humble, being grateful for what I have, and being of service when I have the opportunity to give back. And not only that, just growing up with so many different cultures exposed me to the world. And so I tend to get along with everybody, which is really important. I mean, my mom's a Muslim, my dad's a Christian, my mom's black, my dad's white. Growing up at an international school, I think what's really important as an actor, as a performer, as someone working in Hollywood, is that you are aware of the world, but that you're also a nice person who can get along with everybody and who can appreciate where you are in your journey at any moment. So I think it was really important to grow up with those tools and that worldview, that this is not everything that matters. You know, the Oscar, the award, this is not everything that matters. There's a much bigger world out there. And
there is, and we give it.
Yeah.
Yes, and we give it so much value. You know, I don't think I've ever shared this with anyone. And because you're from Ethiopia, I have to share this right now. It just brought this memory back. I will never forget. I was in the 5th grade on a playground, right, for recess. And I was a scrawny little kid, like really skinny, my glasses and stuff. And they didn't know what Indians were. And I swear some kid came, and this reminds me because of what you said, the whole we are the world, and we know with the food scarcity. Yeah. But some kid came up to me and they were like, "Are you from Ethiopia? Because you look Ethiopian." And I didn't know what to make of that comment at that
because
age.
You were skinny? Is that what it was?
Yes.
Because you were scrawny.
And it was so weird. And I always think back to that, like that reflection of what did that mean? And what is our worldview of other countries and people? I mean, I've always been so fascinated by Ethiopian food because I love the flavors. Yeah. I love just in LA going down to little Ethiopia and checking out the restaurants.
Here, by the way. I can finally have a taste of, where
right?
I grew up.
Oh, I'm sure you missed that.
Yeah.
You know, we started off talking about success. And so you've done so much: television, film, games, writing, voiceovers. You do motion picture graphics as well. Or mocap, excuse me. And do you feel like you've reached that level of success that you've wanted? Or do you feel that there is that thirst for more? Because I feel like in Hollywood, right, like we're talking about the Oscars and the awards, there's always something where it's like, you want more, you want more. Does that want more? Does that thirst ever get quenched?
It's hard because, like I said, Hollywood is the Olympics of entertainment, and you are surrounded by the best of the best. And so constantly you're reminded of your failures, or you're questioning your self-worth because you're always hearing success stories of others, some who are competing the same parts as you are, or some who are doing projects that you want to do. And so you're constantly bombarded with what does success mean, right? Is it the shiny, glittery billboard? Is it the award? Is it recognition? So for me, I had to define success as soon as I came here. I knew that success for me was being able to make a living doing what I love to do, and being able to give back because of what I do. So of course, in the beginning, when I couldn't do much work on the O1 visa, I had to, hustle side jobs, do background work, and do things that were not my passion. But I was able to survive and pay my rent and all this kind of stuff. But my level of success where I am today is I'm able to make a living full time doing this, entertainment. That's a success. That's success for me. I'm able to look back at my career and say, hey, I made history here and there. That's success for me. Of course, you always want more, in the sense of, who doesn't want a little bit more money to be able to provide for their loved ones and families? Who doesn't want a little bit more clout to be able to have more impact and say on certain projects? Like for me, you mentioned my background. In the beginning, people didn't know what to do with this face. They were like, oh, you're East Indian. And so I was only cast as East Indian for the first 5 years.
You do look Indian,
of my
by
career.
the way.
Well, until you make me stand next to Indians and they look at how tall I am, they go, "You're not Indian."
Yeah,
so that's
we got short men.
my height gives it away. But Hollywood didn't know what Africans looked like. They all thought all Africans looked like Jimon Honsu, all dark and I was like, there's so many different shades of African. And so for the first 5 years, I was not playing Africans. I was only getting Indian parts. And so I had to do the accent, which was horrible. And to the part where I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to play who I am, where I am from. And so finally now, I don't know what happened the past couple of years, Hollywood is waking up to, maybe it was Wakanda forever, I don't know, but Hollywood is waking up to, hey, the African diaspora is so diverse. And so when I got, Hakim on Sunnyside, which was an Ethiopian character finally, or Our Flag Means Death, which was a Roach, who was a North African pirate, and certain projects I've done which are finally Africans that, regions I come from, that to me is success, that I'm able to be or portray characters that reflect who I am and not pretend to be something just so I can work. So there's many different definitions of success. But for me, I think the bottom line is by doing what I love most, which is acting, performing, entertaining, doing stand-up comedy, I'm able to do what I love more, which is being able to take care of my loved ones and my families, being able to give back to society, being able to donate to charities, being able to help make the world a better place by spreading the message of unity, because that's who I am. All these cultures in one, to show, hey, we can all get along. That to me is success. So yes, I thirst for more so I can do it on a bigger scale. But I've had to learn to not look at everyone else and just define what success is for me.
And that's hard, I think, especially with social media. I do want to say real quick, though, both of those shows, Our Flag Means Death as well as Sunnyside, right? I just think that I loved seeing you play such different characters. And like you said, the fact that you could represent yourself, it is huge. And trust me, I don't like the Indian accent either. And I think it's hard when you're talent because you have to make that decision, but it takes a stand to be able to say that. You talk about success and what it means to you and defining it for yourself. But has there been a moment that you were envious of someone else's career, and who was it? And then how did you use that as inspiration for you?
LA I always call LA a giant mirror. You move here and whatever you're feeling inside is going to be reflected at you 1,000 times. So if you come here being someone who compares themselves to other people, you're only going to be surrounded by that. Of course, it's hard because especially when you're struggling, you see your friend that you were in the groundings class with get a role, or you see the project you auditioned for didn't go to you, but it went to someone else that you know. Those moments are just like, it's like, I wish or that person's not nice. They don't deserve to have that job, right? You tend to want to do that. It should be me. It should have been me. I was doing that in the beginning, but that is so unhealthy in so many ways, because then you're just holding on to this feeling of jealousy, envy, and then it really affects your own vision of your self-worth. So I had to let that go. And so I don't envy people who get jobs that I wish I got. I get motivated by them. I get inspired by them. I go, okay, that was meant for them. And what belongs to me will come to me. All I have to do is be the best version of me that I can be, and I will attract what is meant for me. And that has proven to work time after time after time. When I audition for something and I am true to myself, I more often than not get the part than when I'm auditioning because I want to be like someone else, or I want to emanate what that person's energy is. And so that doesn't work at all for me. So I had to learn that very quickly. But if you're asking who I look up to from a very young age, it was always Eddie Murphy and Robin Williams, Jim Carrey, just comedians who are so much themselves and got great success by just expressing their way of being funny, their way of being creative, and then being able to have careers not only on stage, but as well as film and TV by playing not only comedic roles, but dramatic roles, and just showing that they can do all these amazing things. So I've always wanted that journey because that seemed the funnest to me. So I've always been inspired by those guys, and I'm determined to work with one of them before they all go away. Unfortunately, R.I.P. Robin Williams, but I'm waiting for Eddie.
I was going to say, unfortunately, one's already.
Yeah, so I'm waiting for that opportunity.
Well, listen, you and me both have Jim Carrey on the list because I would love to sit down and interview him. Yeah, the three names you mentioned too, like I think what is great and what was so great is that these people owned their own space, right? They owned who they were. They trusted in their capabilities. And I'm fascinated with Jim because I'll tell you, in the past few years, he also talks about the universal energies and the law of, attraction, law of assumption, whatever it is that you believe in. But
he's so wise.
Really connected, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just really fascinating. And I think he's also in this space too, where he sees beyond the facade of Hollywood or what we've given to this industry and what it stands for, and coming back again to who you are as a person, who you are as an individual.
That's so inspiring that you have. I don't call it a spiritual backbone, but it's like just a backbone of knowing more than, or knowing that it's more than just this. There's much more to the world than just what we think is the most important thing, which is acting and Hollywood and success. And so I love that he is, experiencing life in such a vast way and curious about what else is out there.
And that's it's like what you were mentioning earlier too, because of your international experience. I went to Costa Rica earlier this year, and it is so funny when you I was the only person there that was from the entertainment industry, and people came from all walks of life, all across the country. And Samba, it is so funny because they're so unplugged. Like, we're so concerned about, well, the Emmys are there or the Oscars and this, like these people, they're so disconnected from that. And I thought, sometimes we really need to step aside and have that curiosity and enjoy the world outside of that.
Seriously, because otherwise it just runs you down, just that you think that this is all there is. It's not all there is. And in fact, I think it makes you not only a better human, but a better performer and entertainer when you are able to explore the world and different cultures and expose yourself to that, because you soak up the human experience. Our job is to be filters of the human experience. Yes. But how can you be a good filter when you don't know what the human experience is or the global experience is? And so I think it only makes you better. You only benefit from it. So take that trip. Don't worry about missing an audition because you go to Costa Rica or because you want to just travel. Take that trip. You're going to come back so much richer than you could ever hope.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because there was a point too in my life where I was hesitant, because you know how it goes, Samba. Sure enough, when you book that trip and you're about to leave 2 days before, you get the call. Right?
Yes,
and
that's just Hollywood going.
That it is. And you have to get to a point where you just feel comfortable and you're like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do this for me, because the opportunities, I believe that what's meant for you will always come back to you too, as far as opportunities,
100%. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so why are we disconnecting ourselves from other parts of life, or like why are we not playing outside of just the industry,
Yeah.
and just locking ourselves into that one situation?
Yeah. And like you say, what belongs to you will come to you. If it's meant for you, it'll circle back. I have a story about Our Flag Means Death. Like, I heard about it already in the summer of 2020, the pandemic. I heard about it during the summer of 2020, and I was like, I gotta get on this. I love Taika Waititi. I love Reese Darby. Let's go. And so we reached out to the casting director, Allison Jones, who's cast me in Sunnyside. And they're like, yeah, we're gonna keep you in mind. We're gonna keep you in mind. A year goes by, and I check in and I go, hey, man, and what's going on with this project? They're like, oh, all roles have already been cast. So I was devastated, heartbroken, like, oh, God, this is great, fantastic, what a missed opportunity. So I go into a bit of a slump, and I go, okay, what's meant to be will be, and I just got to just pep myself up, just keep doing what I love to do. And then, lo and behold, a couple months later, I get an audition for it, and I get it, and it just, whoever they cast as my part before that, it didn't work out, and this opened up the part for me. So what's meant to be will be, and what's meant for you will
Wow.
come to you if it's meant to be. So don't worry about missing the opportunity. Go explore the world, be a better person, and then what's meant to be will happen for you anyway.
I love that story. See, I didn't even know about that. I completely didn't even know that you had this opportunity. But you mentioned run down and I had to pep myself up. So how do you keep yourself going? Like, how do you become your own cheerleader in those moments where things just seem disappointing or heartbreaking, or you didn't get the part that you wanted and this was something you really, really wanted to do?
Yeah, and that's that's a lot. You audition for so many things and you book a handful, so you have to get used to no, without it affecting your self-worth, because it's so easy to go, what did I do wrong, and maybe I should have been different, and maybe it's like, no, it's just not meant for you. There's so much that goes into whether you get a role or not. All your job is to show up at the audition as yourself, be that filter through you as authentically as possible. And if it's meant for you, they'll see it. And if it's not, it's meant for someone else. So that happens more often than not, that you don't get a job. I think what's really important, because cheerleaders are important in your life, obviously. You're your biggest cheerleader. I'm my biggest cheerleader, yes. But it's really important to surround yourself with people who are positive in LA. It's hard to make friends because everyone's so, busy with their own career. So it's hard to build a social network. It takes time. So connect and find people who uplift you, who are not, going to compare themselves to you or be jealous of you. So I'm lucky to have a few friends that we connect on a grander scale than just about acting. It's about just global worldviews and passions. Of course, my partner, my wife, is a great cheerleader. My family, luckily, is a great cheerleader.
You're a father now.
I'm a dad now. That's great motivation, by the way. Talking about beyond the glam, this is what it looks like to have an 8-month-old. I am one finger away from pink eye every day.
Oh, man.
So that's another motivation, So what picks me up in those moments of, I didn't get it. All right, let's just pep ourselves up again for the next opportunity. Is just trusting that what belongs to you comes to you. Is just knowing that you have something to offer. So what I do is when it's quiet and there's nothing going on, I love finding something where I can be of service to. So I love baking, for example. So I do a bake sale for charity, or I do a baking class for some people who are interested, and try to raise money for some cause, just try to give back, or do stand-up shows for, a foundation or whatever it is, because being of service to others shows that you have something to offer, and it goes beyond your self-worth. And it's when you have something to offer to someone else, it just, I don't know, it recharges me. It refills me up. And it's the old adage, the golden rule, what you give comes back to you. And I don't give for selfish reasons to be like, I'm going to give to charity so I get a part. That's not the motivation you should give with. It's about genuinely giving and caring. But it is true that when you are of service to others, life will find a way to help you maintain what you love to do when you put it out there. It's all comes down to joy, right? It's like
Yes.
my favorite quote is, God, I'm gonna forget his name, aren't I? Joseph Campbell, who says, "Follow your bliss, and the universe will open doors where there were only walls." And that has proven true time and time and time again. When you do what you love, when you do what brings you joy and happiness, somehow doors open. So when you're not in that zone of, I didn't get the part, I didn't do this, didn't do this, nothing's going to open up for you if you're there. You just have to kind of breathe in, trust, patience, perseverance, and just, make it bigger than yourself, make the world bigger than yourself, give to other people, help other people. And somehow doors open when you do that.
I'm a full believer of that with you, because I've seen that happen for myself too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard, man. It takes patience to like trust and persevere, but there is that joy in knowing that you were able to help someone else. There is that joy in seeing that you could bring a smile to someone else's face. And I'm going to circle back to the baking real quick, because if you check out Samba's Instagram feed, at least that's where I see him. No, he's not just baking. This guy is an expert. I mean, my God, the recipes you come up with, I have still yet to try and taste. But every time I see something that you post and create, I'm like, my God, this is magic, because I could probably barely get a cupcake to even get lifted out of the pan or something.
No, thank you for saying that.
Your recipes.
Yeah. No, it's just, it's something that I love to do. It's like my meditation, it's like you are focused on something else and you create alchemy, and then you create something beautiful. You're able to be creative with it. And then you're able to share it and bring joy to other people. And it's just so magical to me. So it just became a passion. I'm still a home baker, by the way. I'm not a chef or anything like that. I just love challenging myself to make even better, even tastier, even prettier desserts. But yeah, that's my meditation. That's the zone I go in when I need to get out of my head. Baking is really like what has taken off.
Well, you come up with some unique stuff. And, I think regardless of where you work, what industry you're in, it is so important to disconnect. And like you said, find that joy. Like I love being in nature. So I make sure, right, that I'm out hiking or I'm connecting somewhere near the water or with, outdoors, because that is my peace.
Yeah. And then you don't make it all about the industry. You don't just identify as an actor, because it's so easy to just be identified as that and make your whole identity just that, forgetting that you had a whole life before you came to Hollywood. You had a whole way you were raised, things you were exposed to that you can use or that you can learn from or that you can share with wisdom. And so it's so easy to forget that you have this whole life. Like I was made to forget that I had a whole life before I moved to Hollywood, because when I came here, it was like nothing you did matters. You have to start from scratch. So it was so hard to be like, no, I carry all these suitcases with me that have valuable tools. So don't fall in that trap of I'm just this, because you're not, you're so much more than that.
So who is Samba outside of being an actor?
A dad, a dad to a fun 8-month-old, a humanitarian, I would say, someone who was raised to be of service and raised being an outsider, because I'm from all these different cultures. So I was never belonged in one specific place, because I'm not white enough to be European. I'm not black enough to be African. I'm not Christian enough, not Muslim enough, not short enough, not tall enough. So I've always been an outsider. And so at first I thought that was a curse, but it turns out that can be very much a blessing if you see the superpower in it, which is you are a unifier of all these cultures. And so you can see much more of humanity by being a bit of everything. And so what I am outside of being an actor is someone who tries to unite people and tries to bring people together, showing that, hey, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, be who you want to be, but we can all get along by being who we want to be. It doesn't have to be me against you, because we all crave the same things. We all crave love. We all crave peace. We all crave unity. As much as people say they don't want to, we all just want to get along.
We do. You're like my UN ambassador right here.
Seriously, I'm the model United Nations over here.
I just love it.
Google my face, and you'll see what humanity looks like in 50 years, and we show up.
Well, there's AI, so yeah, I bet that could change too.
Right. So I think that's outside acting. That's a dad, partner, romantic, because I have this vision of unity in the world, but also just really a humanitarian who wants to give back, because I'm so grateful and fortunate with the journey I've had.
But you're so kind too. Like, I remember the first time I met you, which was through Sunnyside. I mean, we just immediately kind of just connected, and I think we had met on the red carpet, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's right, yeah.
And there was just this synergy, and I thought, wow, you're just so kind, and you really admit that. You mentioned outsider. Mm-hmm. And I think that can sometimes be very painful, because at some point people feel that. Like, I'm going to just bring this up and be vulnerable and share this with you. I think there's times when within my own community, even though I've been around for so long, I feel like an outsider within the South Asian community, which is so bizarre because I used to be so involved within that space. So how did you move past the pain of that? Because I do feel it feels hurtful sometimes not knowing where you belong, and everybody wants to have that feeling of just feeling wanted or belonging or feeling appreciated.
Yeah. I mean, thanks for sharing that. It's tricky because, as you know, as a kid growing up, I was bullied for it. I was bullied for not belonging. I was in Holland when I moved there to study from Ethiopia. I moved to Holland to study theater. I didn't belong, even though I was Dutch. I was always an outsider. And then when I'd go back home to Africa, they're like, you're European. I was saying, no, one of you. So it's just been a constant theme in my life of just, okay, learn to accept that your story is different. People might not get who you are right away or know which box to put you in. And that's happened in Hollywood too. Like, he's East Indian. No, he's too tall. Must be Latino. No, still too tall. He can't be African because he's not Jimun Honsu. Dutch, get out of here. So it's a box that they couldn't put me in. And so it's so easy to just feel like, God, maybe I shouldn't be an actor. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I should work for the United Nations or whatever it is. But that's what I mean by I had to remind myself that I do have something to offer. There's not many people like me. I mean, there's more now, but there's not many people like me who can showcase that, hey, all these cultures exist, and I have to stand up for it and show that, hey, there are people like me in the world, and they need to feel seen as well. So my job is then in my stand-up comedy to talk about my multicultural upbringing and the frustrations that come with that. As an actor, it's to be authentically who I am and to show, yes, I can be European and I can be African, and that's okay. And so suddenly getting roles that highlight those aspects of me. And it's just a choice of knowing, hey, I have something to offer. I am worthy. People might not get me, but it's my job to just be who I am, and eventually they will. And so it is hard to just get in that zone of stay true to yourself, because it'll take time before people get you. And sometimes they still don't get me today, but they're getting a better idea just because I am emanating. This is who I am.
Yeah. And it's embracing yourself. And I think that really, especially, and that's why these conversations are so important to me, because I feel we work in an industry that can take that away from you. So as long as you're grounded in knowing who you are, and it's work, it is not easy. It is not easy.
It is not. You have to recognize the voices in your head. You have to know which ones are beneficial or which ones are not. And the ones that are not uplifting, positive, supportive, just try to figure out why they're there and try to, change them into more positive affirmations of who you are. Focus on the strengths that you have and not what the weaknesses are or you think are weaknesses, because those can easily get highlighted when you're, in the spotlight or in Hollywood, where they're like, I mean, yeah, no, too tall to this, too much to this, to this, to this. And you're like, oh, it's a weakness. No, use it as a strength. I'm tall.
Love it. Embrace it, right?
Let me embrace it. Yeah. And so I'll play characters that are either lanky and awkward or, very poised and regal or whatever. Just use it to your strength.
Use it to your advantage. Yeah. I'm going to ask you to state and complete the sentence here as we wrap up. State and complete the sentence. The real me is.
The real me is a wandering clown. Just someone who is wandering around trying to see who they can cheer up. I think that's me. I think I've always been a wanderer, always trying to find my place and what I want to do, but also just being playful and being able to laugh at myself, because that's the most important thing, to be able to laugh at yourself and not take things so seriously, even though there's things you have to take seriously. I'm a dad now. I have to provide for my family, but not suffering from the weight of it, but being able to laugh at it, have levity. And remind us that it's okay to laugh. Life is going to be drama. Life is going to be tough. Life is going to have challenges. But let's just make a rubber balloon of a dog and just have fun at the same time, So yes, I think the real me is a wandering clown. I'm
not good with balloons, but I will take that visual from you.
Or clowns. Most people are not with clowns.
Well, clowns is a whole different thing. Samba, where can people find you?
I'm on social media, so I'm on Instagram at Samba Schutte, my name, or on Twitter at Samba Schutte, Facebook on Samba Schutte. I have a website, but nobody uses websites anymore. And I would say just, on my Instagram, you'll get a link to my IMDb, to my YouTube pages with baking, my classes that I do. And, you can follow my journey, which is not only acting, by the way. It has to be more than just that.
Yeah, maybe I'll jump into a class, by the way, because I didn't even know you were doing baking classes.
Oh, yeah. I got one coming up November 9th.
Make something.
I'm making a mac and cheese. So if you want to join in on that, happy to.
A mac and cheese cake or mac and cheese?
No, my God, no. Can you imagine mac and cheese cupcakes? No, it's like, this guy's weird. No, an actual mac and cheese casserole, because it's the Thanksgiving. I've done a lot of sweet baking classes. Now I'm going savory here and there.
Ooh. Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a fun and savory conversation. Samba, thank you so much.
Thanks, Rasha.
This is like a chai chat for me. We could just be sipping on some chai and we could just keep chatting about our journeys. But thank you, Samba Schutte. Make sure you check out his work, his shows, things he's working on, Advanced Chemistry. That should be a fun one. And again, I'm Rasha Goel. Thank you for joining me on Beyond the Glam. I'm so happy that you guys are all plugged in and I want to hear from you. So please comment. Let me know what you're enjoying, what you're not enjoying. I will try to embrace it. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff that I'm supposed to say you're supposed to be doing. Beyond the Glam. And thank you, everyone. I'll see you next week with another fun episode of Beyond the Glam.